What's going on, Phins fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here to do my recap video, my review video for the Miami Dolphins versus New York Jets in Hard Rock Stadium. I am also going to go over, the week slate, so all the games that, did happen this week. Obviously, today's Monday. I'm making this. I was going to make this video last night, but I got kind of tired and stuff and decided to chill last night, so I'm making it today. And obviously today's Monday, so there is still the Monday night game. However, it's the Eagles versus the Seahawks. So not really a matchup that, matters to us. It doesn't really have any bearing on us. Because we don't really worry about NFC teams, at least not until the Super Bowl. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it though. So I am going to hop over. So first we're going to take a look at the playoff machine a little bit and stuff, because I do want to discuss where the current, playoff standings and everything are. As you can see, obviously Baltimore remains in that number one seed. We were hoping that the Jags could get the job done, and frankly, they should have. I mean, if you watched that game last night, the Jags should have won that game. They should have been in control early on in the game. They should have had the lead early on in the game. There were they got into the red zone like 4 or 5 times and came up with 0 points every single fucking time. Well, except for one, because they ended up scoring once, I believe. They scored 7 points. Anyway, or something like that. I don't even remember what they scored because they barely fucking scored and they shit the game away. Anyway, they should have won that game. They had 2 missed field goals. There were a couple fumbles, one down in the at the 5-yard line by Trevor Lawrence. It was just their defense played fucking great. Their defense played great. But, their offense was like, we don't care to win this game. And, at the end of the half, they had barely any time left. They run up to the line because they get a huge chunk play, I think, or whatever, and get down into the red zone and down to the 5-yard line. And then they run another play and then they run out of time because they ran another play instead of just spiking the ball and kicking for the 3 points. And at that point, the Ravens still only had 3 points. So they could have if I remember correctly. Anyway, but it was just a fucking mess. The point here is the Jags should have won, didn't win. So now we remain the 2nd seed while they remain the number 1 seed. But the good news here from this game in particular is that the Ravens are definitely beatable. I mean, they're not, they're definitely a damn good team, and Lamar Jackson made some outstanding plays. He's definitely tough to get to the ground and all that stuff, and it's going to be tough for us when we play him. However, they are unquestionably a beatable team, and here's the thing. I think that this upcoming week, because just real quick, well, as you can see, they play the 49ers. I think the 49ers are going to win. Now, I thought the Jags could win, and like I said, they should have, but I did mention, in my last playoff predictor video, which I will be doing my next one tomorrow. I expect to do that one tomorrow, so this is not that, obviously. I'm just kind of catching up on what happened. Anyway, but, the Ravens, obviously, I think overall we're the better team. The reason why I gave the Jags the edge was because they were at home and I thought they were good enough that they could get it done, and I was hoping that they could. They failed us, but it is what it is. So we remain the number 2 seed. There's still the number 1 seed for now, although I do think that we have the opportunity this upcoming week to beat them, to jump them, because I think that they will lose to the San Francisco 49ers, especially since they're going to San Francisco, right? So that's another away game for them. And I mean, the Niners are the Niners, bro, right? I feel like it could be a good game. It could be competitive, perhaps, but I think the Niners are going to end up coming away with that win. Now, we absolutely hope that's the case, because then that will drop them to 11-4. And then if we can beat the Cowboys, which I think we will, especially after what we saw this, past week, and we'll get to that in just a second, because obviously the Bills won. But then we'd be able to leapfrog them potentially. They may actually still hold the tiebreaker at that point for the moment. It just kind of depends, too, on how the rest of the week lines up. But it definitely would give us the opportunity and certainly would put us on path for being able to get that number 1 seed, especially if then we beat Baltimore in Baltimore the next week. And again, we'll get to the playoff predictor portion tomorrow, but let's go ahead and finish up with the rest of this. So we don't really care about this game, but it's tonight. We didn't care about this one, didn't care about this one. Texans, this one was good for us though. Just in the grand scheme of things, we wanted the Texans to win just because of the fact that as long as the Bills don't win the division, it's going to be super hard for them. Again, we'll get into the predictor and the playoff predictor shit tomorrow, so we'll look at that. But it's going to be extremely hard for them to get into the playoffs if they don't win the division. So, and look, there is at this particular point, because the Bills have the Chargers next week and then the Patriots the week after that. I doubt the Bills are going to lose either of those games. Who knows? Maybe the Chargers can surprise us. It's in LA, so the Bills are on the road, and they potentially will have an interim head coach bump. They still have Justin Herbert. Everybody loves him, and they still have weapons and stuff on both sides of the ball. So who knows? Maybe they can get an upset, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm not counting on it. If we're being completely honest, at this point, we just need to get to that last game because that last game is going to decide the division. Now, here's the thing. No matter what, even if the Dolphins were to somehow lose their next 2 games, we would still be playing for the division in that last game because we're still 2 games ahead of them as of right now, right? Because they're 8-6, as you can see, we're 10-4. So, no matter what, we're going to remain the AFC East champions as long as we beat Buffalo in the last week of the season, or if we were to win the next 2 games. We can actually clinch the next 2 games. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, the way it is if we win this week against the Cowboys, this upcoming week against the Cowboys, we clinch a playoff spot. If we win the following week against the Ravens, I believe we clinch the division, and then I think it's the number 1 seed then if we beat the Bills. So we're going to have something to play for each and every fucking week, and we can do it, man. We can do it. But anyway, so obviously we wanted the Bills to lose this game, though, to hurt their chances of getting into the playoffs at all, and it was definitely going to be the best opportunity and the most probable opportunity for the Bills to lose down the stretch outside of the game in Miami, because again, the Chargers and the Patriots probably not going to get the win, but obviously we will be rooting for the Chargers and the Patriots the next 2 weeks. So we'll see how that plays out. This one doesn't matter to us. Obviously we got our win. It was a resounding win. We'll get to that in a minute. Obviously that is part of this video. Let's see. We wanted the Broncos to win. That didn't work out, but it is what it is. This one didn't matter to us. KC, we were hoping the Patriots could pull it out. They couldn't. That's obviously not really unexpected. That's kind of how we expected it to go, the Chiefs to win, so it is what it is. We still obviously remain, for at least the time being, 1 game ahead of them, so not particularly concerning there, although they do have the easier road down the schedule, and that's what everybody's been talking about. Now look, we did what we need to do. Again, we'll get to this in just a minute. We held up our end of the bargain this week. We need to just keep doing that week in, week out, and I think we can. We'll get to that in a minute. Colts, this actually was overall a favorable. I mean, this one could have gone either way. It was kind of a win-win. But Colts is good for us. That does ultimately hurt the Bills' playoff chances. This one was a good win for us. That also helps to hurt the playoff chances of the Buffalo Bills because obviously, at the end of the day here, let's real quick hop over to this one so you can see, by the way, these are the teams that have already now clinched playoff spots. We can clinch a playoff spot with a win this next week. But as you can see, the Bills are still down here at 9th and on the bubble. So the idea here is, especially since they're so far behind in tiebreakers, let's keep all these other teams ahead of them by these other teams just winning. You know what I'm saying? As long as these other teams continue to win, the Buffalo Bills will remain out even if they win simply off of tiebreakers. So in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases. So that's that, right? Anyway, let's just finish this up. Bengals, so, same thing there. Keep the Bengals, and especially since, they were playing NFC teams, whatever. So there you have it. Now, as you know, like I said, I mean, the Chargers, though, for example, this upcoming week, the Chargers are way down here. They're last almost, except for, these three teams, the Patriots, Jets, and Titans, who have all been eliminated. But the Chargers are on the verge of being eliminated. So they're not really a threat playoff-wise or anything like that. So, we want them to beat the Bills, et cetera, et cetera. All right, anyway, that's done. We have recapped. All right, so now let's go ahead and move into our game. And then we will talk a little bit about, just philosophically and generally what we need to do down the stretch and so on and so forth. And then we'll do the full playoff predictor tomorrow. So obviously you can see, and look, I told you guys, now obviously, I'm a fan of the Dolphins. All fans of every fan base do this, right? I mean, realistic fans will take the data that they have available to them and they will, be realistic about their teams. I'm that kind of fan. So, I do point out the negatives. I do point out the concerns, the things that need to be worked on. And when we live in a situation like we have the past couple decades where the overwhelming majority of the data is negative, I'm going to report that to you. And, that's why I got the, reputation of being a negative person, because I was just reporting to you guys what was going on with the Dolphins and it wasn't good. Now we have a lot more good to talk about. And I told you guys this team was going to come out. Look, man, I think it's even more clear at this point that they did just come out kind of feeling themselves last week. And then right off the rip, with injuries, that game just kind of spiraled. Now they did their best to, avoid a collapse, and they definitely overcame some adversity in that game. But ultimately, they got caught with their pants down and they dropped one. They stubbed their toe. Everybody does it. It is what it is. But I told you guys that this team was going to come out this week humble and hungry. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, did they. As you can see, 30-0. Honestly, this game could have been worse. Really, the only negative that you can point to in this game was penalties. But having said that, if you're just realistic about it, and here's the thing, right? And this is why, like, when people get into these arguments about, like, excuses, I get it, and I get that, like take injuries, for example, and going into this game, right? We have a ton of injuries. The Jets have a ton of injuries. Nobody gives a fuck who you have on the field. You got to play who you play. Next man up. No excuses. I get it. And that's totally right. And that's totally true from that perspective and in that context. However, in the greater scheme of things, in the big picture, when you look at that shit, or even when you look at last game when we lost Connor Williams and then Tyreek Hill for a portion, et cetera, you have to make adjustments. And sometimes your adjustments are good enough in the moment. Sometimes they're not, but you do the best you can. The point I'm getting at is there, if the data that you're discussing is factual, it's not an excuse. It becomes an excuse when people start making up bullshit as to why they failed, right? If you're just making up a bunch of bullshit, or if you're taking the factual data and you're running with it, like, injuries or penalties, for example, if you just run with that and don't take any personal accountability. Those are the two scenarios in which they become excuses. But if a person presents to you factual data that's part of the equation and says, well, look, at the end of the day, last week we had injuries, we had penalties, we had all of these factors, we had all of this adversity and all of these things that were against us, but we still got to do what we got to do. We still got to handle it to the best of our ability. We still got to do our best to overcome. It's still got to be next man up and all those things. If that's how a person approaches it, then it's not an excuse. It's just simply telling you the facts of the situation. You feel me? So, anyway, that's my point there. You get what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, it wasn't excuses. It was just the reality of the situation from last game, and that's how it turned out, and it is what it is, right? But I told you, man, this team was going to come out humble and hungry from that, and they're going to show you this is not the same old Dolphins team. And they came out and they fucking stomped a division rival, the second division rival that we've swept now. By the way, we're going 5. I've been saying this for a while. We're going 5-1 in the division. We're going to beat the Bills. We're going to get our fucking revenge on them. And it is what it is. So anyway, they dropped to 5-9. We're 10-4. Stay atop the division. All good stuff. Let's see. Stats should be available. This is part of the reason why I waited till today as well. I'm going to slide over here now for just a moment. Because sometimes the stats don't like to show up right after the game. So, all right. Now, look, we didn't have a totally spectacular day statistically offensively, but you don't need to. That's the thing. I know we're so used to this offense being super high flying and all that shit. Obviously, we didn't have Hill, but we still took care of business and we dominated, okay, on both sides of the ball. And look, we didn't have Howard, Hill, Holland, or Elliott in this game. Pretty big, key pieces. Obviously, Jerome Baker's still sidelined temporarily. Hunt is still temporarily sidelined. We do expect to get all those guys back. In fact, I actually expect to get all those guys except for maybe Hunt and, Jerome Baker because he's still on IR. Those two guys not. Jerome Baker for sure. Hunt, maybe. We'll see how the week goes. And it is we're getting into this final stretch. So, everything is on the table at this point. So maybe he, is good enough to play. But we're going to get Holland, Howard, Hill, and Elliott. I'm pretty sure we're getting all those guys back for this next game. Again, we'll talk about that in just a second. But my point is even without those guys, even with all the shuffling on the offensive line, et cetera, we came out and stomped them. And they were feeling great. They were on a high. Like if you watch the AFC East roundtable and shit, which is actually getting ready to start here shortly. So I'm going to need to get to that. But, like Richie and on his channel was feeling great because they stomped the Texans, et cetera. But I was telling you guys, don't be worried about that. Their offense fucking sucks. Our defense will be able to handle them, and I think our offense will be able to do enough. And look, I've said it a number of times recently. It's December. If we got to play gritty-ass fucking football, play it. And again, we'll get to a little bit of the future stuff in just a minute. Let's get through the rest of this because I do want to talk about that, and that will be the next thing. Let's just cap up this video. So 290 yards for us. We held them to 103. We had 213 passing. They had 80. We had 77 on the ground. They had 23 rush yards. At the end of the first half, they had like 4 yards or something like that. We had 5 yards per play. They were at 2. Obviously 30-0. They lost 2 fumbles. They threw 2 interceptions. We didn't turn the ball over at all. Clean game. We did allow 3 sacks, but that and the penalties, which we had 9, they had 7. You're going to, unfortunately, with so many backups, you're going to, it's reasonable. It's not unexpected to think that you're going to get some fucking penalties, right? For a number of reasons. But anyway, we allowed 3 sacks. They allowed 3. We were 40% on third downs. They were 38. We had the ball for 36-21. They had it for 23-39. Dolphins. Tua was 21 for 24, 224 and a touchdown, no interceptions. By the way, I'm pretty sure it was like 88% completion percentage, which is crazy, right? But see, again, he doesn't have to be, crazy stats for Tua, and it doesn't have to be crazy, Hill every time. It doesn't have to be that. We can run the ball, we can spread the ball out, and that's how we need to do it down the stretch here. Getting Hill back is going to be super important, and they're going to need to use him. But we do need to have a balanced attack, both from the perspective of run to pass, as well as from the perspective of spread the ball out. All right, Mostert, 15 of 42 with 2 touchdowns. Achane, 9 of 32. Waddle led the way, 8 for 142 and a touchdown. Obviously, there was that, big bomb, and he kind of stepped up and really became that number 1 guy, which we all knew he could. And then they spread it around a little bit. Durham Smythe, 4 of 32. Achane, 3 of 30. Barrios, 1 for 12. And then get a couple other guys in the mix as well, right? And then, obviously just some defensive statistics. We had the 2 interceptions, a bunch of passes defensed. Gang of passes defense by a lot of guys. Ethan Bonner, Elijah Campbell, Eli Apple, Duke Riley, right? Dominated them. Obviously, they didn't score a single point. let's see, we had 3, 4, 5, 6 sacks altogether. We had, 3, 4, 5 tackles for loss. Just a beautiful day across the board. Just amazing bounce back. 3 of 3 on field goals, 3 of 3 on extra points. And there you even special teams was pretty solid in this game. I mean, this was probably definitely one of the most complete games that this team has played, and that's good and that's encouraging, especially off of the disappointment from Monday. Let's see. Zach Wilson was 4 of 11 for 26 yards. Trevor Siemian 14 to 26 because Zach Wilson ended up leaving the game and not coming back for 110 and 2 interceptions. No touchdowns, obviously. Breece Hall, 6 for 12. They call him Izzy Abanikanda. They call Izzy, I think, is his nickname for his first name, Israel, obviously. But look, I mean, look at these numbers. The passing numbers. Gibson was 2 for 29. Wilson, 3 for 29. Lazard, 3 for 21. Conklin, 4 for 18. Ruckert, 2 for 16, right? Like, just absolutely suffocated them across the board. And, you know, obviously they didn't do very much on against us. You know, they did have, like I said, a couple sacks, some tackles for loss, and it is what it is. You know, those things are going to happen. You're playing a professional football team who also gets paid and has some players on that side of the ball. But we just absolutely destroyed them, and it was beautiful to see. Obviously, love to see it. But real quick, before I get out of here, just a quick couple notes on the future. Look, at this point in time, Dolphins just got to keep taking care of business. And if we saw from, you know, the entire season, but also these past, the games this past week, both the Cowboys and the Ravens, baby, are beatable. Cowboys are coming to our house, then Baltimore is in Baltimore, but we can definitely beat those teams. And like I said, if we win this week, we clinch the playoffs. If we win next week, we'll clinch the division. Win the week after that, we clinch the number 1 seed. So totally in our grasp, and we absolutely can do it 100%. Plus, again, this week, I expect to get Howard, Holland, Hill, and Elliott back. Perhaps maybe Hunt. We will get Jerome Baker back towards the end of the season. So, you know, things are looking really good. We've got this. I know we can handle this shit, and I know we can take care of business. So let's just take it 1 week at a time, and let's see how things play out from here. But I'm very optimistic, and I think Dolphins fans should be as well. So with that, I am going to get out of here, guys. I am going to go check out the AFC East roundtable because that should be a bunch of fun. So you guys should check that out as well. I am still trying to get in with Roundtable Sports. I haven't had a meeting with them yet, unfortunately. You know, for whatever reason, we weren't able to have that one before, so I am still trying to get in on that. But for the time being, I'm just working on my channel, you know, on my own. So if you guys like my videos and my content, make sure you share the channel with your friends and family. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave comments down in the comment section and all that good stuff. It all helps the channel grow, and I very much appreciate it. And so with that, guys, I'm out of here. I love you, appreciate you, and Fins up all day, every day, baby. Super Bowl bound, baby. Here we go.
7 seconds left. Tannehill will throw it. And this will end it after the shutout. Miami runs around. Circling. Look out. Gronkowski did not let it go. Touchdown. Miraculous in Miami. Stills to Parker to Drake. And they held off the field. Unimaginable what has taken place here in South Florida. The Dolphins have done it. They keep their season alive. 69 yards. Wow. Pure joy. Miami wins it.